Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Parasite is a 3-player tactical co-op shooter that is set several years in the future of the Rainbow Six universe. The project is being developed by Ubisoft Montreal and published by Ubisoft. I have covered this game extensively throughout the past year. I've made an Everything We Know About the Game video, which covered all the news and everything up to a certain point. I also made a video about the delay and some potential testing that we heard might have been happening behind closed doors, both of which I will link down below if you are interested and want to be caught up before going into this video. But today I'm going to cover the name change and the recent gameplay leak. As always, all the sources will be linked in the description down below, so make sure to check those out and support those original writers. And with that out of the way, let's get into the Rainbow Six Parasite leak and name change. Let's start with the name itself. Up to this point, the game has been referenced as Rainbow Six Quarantine. The name was meant to distance the project from Outbreak, which was the inspiration for the game mode, which was a smaller game mode that was in Rainbow Six. But the name was still meant to be familiar enough for fans of the franchise. If they liked Outbreak, they would understand that Quarantine was the natural successor to that mode. Now, it's important to remember that when this game was announced, it happened in 2019, and no one was thinking that most of the world was going to be in a quarantine due to a pandemic in 2020. So there wasn't any real outrage around the name and fans demanding that they change it from Rainbow Six Quarantine. But for the most part, it makes sense from a sheer marketing perspective that some sort of name change would happen, because now whenever you Google quarantine or anything of the sort, all search engines in YouTube and social media is filled with news about the outbreak and pandemic, so it wouldn't make sense for Ubisoft to try to market within that space, and it would just put them in a very weird spot. And Ubisoft has been pretty public that they were talking about a name change and that Quarantine was most likely not going to be the final name for the game anymore. So most fans were expecting a name change at some point. And we actually got a hint at what this name was going to be with the website MP First, which noticed that an update for Rainbow Six Quarantine was uploaded to the PlayStation Network, and the update was actually for version 1.01, and it was labeled as the initial launch patch, which is strange because we still don't have a release date for the game, we only have a release window, so it seems like the game is further along if they're starting to do some of these release versions and updates. Now, within some of the data that was uploaded to the PlayStation Network, they found a new logo for the game, which now listed the game as Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Parasite. And some key art and icons were found that were used on the PlayStation Network, along with a placeholder controller graphic for remote play on the PlayStation Vita. MP First do claim they reached out to Ubisoft for comment about this information, but received no communication back because they were trying to verify, okay, we have all this information, is the game coming soon? What about this name change, these graphics, what's happening, and what is this key art for? And is it legit? PC Games N also reached out to Ubisoft about the leak, and they did receive word back. Ubisoft told them, quote, "While we recently shared that we will be changing the name of Rainbow Six Quarantine, Parasite is only a placeholder that our internal teams use. Recently, we ran an internal test for the game, and some of its details became public. We can confirm this is a glimpse of the upcoming game, and we will share more details, including the official name, soon." So it sounds like some internal testing was happening for the game, which is something I mentioned hearing about in my delay video, even though at the time we really couldn't prove it. There were rumors and speculation that internal testing was happening for this game, and that was all the way back in December. So it seems like for the sake of testing, the team had already started to shift away from the Quarantine branding and instead decided to use Parasite. We do not know what the game is going to be officially called, but the fact that the game comes out sometime in the next fiscal year, which starts in April, means that sometime between April and March of 2022 the game will be released, so marketing should definitely start to pick up, and then we can hopefully get a conclusive response about the name and what Ubisoft is going to do moving forward promoting this. And then we got a gameplay leak that happened at the end of February of 2021. Gameplay was posted online that is seemingly from a test version of Rainbow Six Quarantine or Rainbow Six Parasite. And before you get too excited, only a few seconds of gameplay were posted. We see the player character is playing as Vigil, along with Tachanka and Lion. And they're in an area called the Workshop, and they have a 15-minute timer to complete whatever their tasks are. And we see the player shooting this black goo, which causes it to recede, and then we see this parasite itself, which will most likely be related to what this 15-minute timer is and what the actual point of this map is. And basically this has everything else you should expect from a Rainbow Six Siege spin-off. The HUD and UI look almost identical, we see some of the same characters, so we're just waiting to see if they will have some of the same abilities or if they will be in certain roles as well. The community has already speculated on this, on how characters could potentially differ from their Siege counterparts to Parasite, because some skills don't line up exactly the same way they'd work in Siege, because Siege is a multiplayer game. You have skills used against other players. When Parasite, because it's 3 players versus all AI, they're going to need different shifts and different balancing things to make it work. So fans have already started speculating what we could see, but for the sake of this video, I'm not going to cover any of that speculation. Along with the gameplay leak, another image leak was posted from the same leaker on Reddit. This time the player character is playing as Lion and is escorting an NPC, which is a similar type of mission that we have seen before in this franchise. The time limit and area are the same, but this time we see the player looking at a whole room covered with this black goo. They're using a different weapon, and once again, not too much to break down here, but very interesting nonetheless. It's also important to say with this gameplay and image leak, these have not been confirmed. The first part of the leak, Ubisoft did confirm and say yes, it is called Parasite, but the gameplay did just happen a few days ago at the time of recording, and Ubisoft hasn't given an official response, but it lines up with what they've said about having play testing happening, and the fact that a few images and more details are getting leaked wouldn't surprise me if this all seems real, and it does seem legit and like it would be too much work to fake, but as always, take it with a grain of salt. But for me, it looks real enough, and it seems like what we would expect from this title. And that for the most part covers the gameplay leak and name change. I don't really want to cover any speculation because then we just get too in the weeds of this game, but it looks like there was something happening for the project and some testing, and people have been able to play the game, which resulted in the team adding a placeholder name until they're finally able to reveal the final name. And because now some people have playtested it, it led to this leak. Now the leak isn't too bad and nothing too drastic was revealed, but that really just depends on what else the leaker has and what else they're willing to share if we see more of this game in the future. Either way though, hopefully this leads to Ubisoft releasing more official information about the game and finally giving fans a release date to look forward to. That's where I'm going to end this video, and that is everything we know about the Rainbow Six Parasite leak and name change. As always, make sure to like and share, subscribe for weekly gaming news, and I will see you guys in the next one.